And welcome back as we continue our journey through the book of Acts. Today we continue our story in Acts 24. And where we last left off, Paul was standing before Felix on trial in front of his accusers. And his accusers bought and hired this amazing orator that was buttering up Felix, saying, "Oh, we don't want to waste your time, but this guy's a plague," and just distorting the truth. Today we pick up that story and see Paul's response will be in verses 10 through 21. We're going to read that portion of scripture, pull out a timeless truth. Let's dive in. And when the governor had nodded to him to speak, Paul replied, "Knowing that for many years you have been a judge over this nation, I cheerfully make my defense. You can verify that it is not more than 12 days since I went up to worship in Jerusalem. And they did not find me disputing with anyone or stirring up a crowd, either in the temple or in the synagogues or in the city. Neither can they prove to you what they now bring up against me. But this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, I worship the God of our fathers, believing everything laid down by the law and written in the prophets, having a hope in God, which these men themselves accept, that there will be a resurrection of both the just and the unjust. So I always take pains to have a clear conscience toward both God and man. Now, after several years, I came to bring alms to my nation and to present offerings. While I was doing this, they found me purified in the temple without any crowd or tumult. But Jews from Asia, they ought to be here before you and to make an accusation should they have anything against me. Or else let these men themselves say what wrongdoing they found when I stood before the council. Other than this thing that I cried out while standing among them, it is with respect to the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you this day." So Paul's defense before Felix is a beautiful picture of self-control. Though he was under false accusations and the pressure of the hostile crowd, Paul didn't lash out or attack the character of his accusers. Instead, he calmly presented the facts of the case, confident that the truth would stand on its own. He refused to manipulate or over-exaggerate, and because of that, he could testify that he had kept a clear conscience before God and man. His restraint demonstrated self-control, anchored in trust that God himself is the ultimate judge. This is a lesson for us when we face criticism, misunderstanding, or even unfair treatment. The instinct is to retaliate, to speak up against a person's character, or to prove ourselves right by tearing the other person down. But wisdom calls us to something higher. Paul did not need to prove that his accusers lacked integrity. He simply allowed their words to reveal it for themselves. In Proverbs chapter 17, verse 28, in the New Living Translation, it says this: "Even fools are thought wise when they keep silent. With their mouths shut, they seem intelligent." So, rather than rushing to defend our pride, we can follow Paul's example of self-control by speaking truth without venom, sticking to the facts, and letting God vindicate us. In doing so, our character shines through with far greater power than any attack that we can make. And so, church, I just want to encourage you right now that you may be thinking of people that have lied against you. Maybe you're in a situation right now that you feel like you have to prove yourself, whether it be to your spouse or to your coworker or whoever. Take it to God in prayer today, and that you would surrender any ill feelings that you may have towards that person, whether it be anger, jealousy, frustration, etc. And that you would say, "God, I want to stick to the facts. And I don't want to talk to my spouse in a way that just says, 'Hey, I'm right and you're wrong, haha, end of story.' It's, let me speak in a way that I can surrender the frustration or surrender the hurt or the offense. And I could say, 'All right, God, help me to understand my spouse. Help me to understand my coworker for the sake of restoration, for the sake of relationship, for the sake of God's kingdom. Help me to get out of the way of what you desire to do in the relationships that I have in my life.'" God bless.